Okay, so alright, good morning everybody, and today we have this seminar in here. So today we're gonna see some of the technique like web SQL technique for local database, and in this next 1 hour, I'll be taking you through one of the technique, web SQL database, and how you can use this in your browser to store your data in the local end of the client end. And then I'll be also taking you through the SQLite, which is the basic for web SQL database technique. And then we will be having a demo application, and then we will be doing some synchronization part from your client end to the server end. So till now we have created a demo application, and we have taken that offline, and we have also seen some of the technique like okay, so till now we have made a demo application part 1, and we took that offline, and then in part 2 we saw some of the technique like IndexedDB, local storage, and session storage, and which can be used to store data at the local end. And here we have one of technique. So this is web SQL technique, and this is all the previous 3 technique which we use like web SQL, the session storage, local storage, and the IndexedDB. So they were not relational. So actually there you were using some sort of key value pair and storing data in there. So actually it was not relational model. But this web SQL model is a relational model, and you are very familiar with the relational type of DB. You have already worked with maybe MySQL or SQL or Oracle. So this is based on that. So agenda for today, we're gonna start with SQLite, and then we're gonna see how web SQL databases, and then synchronization, and then demo application. So starting with SQLite. So basically this is your relational DB management, and it's not just a dedicated piece of software which is running. This can be more of like can be understood like you use jQuery, but jQuery itself is not a piece of software. You are using some sort of jQuery library. You use those in your project, and this is not a piece of software which is running there. You are using those jQuery and using those. So web SQLite is somewhat similar to jQuery. So here you use some library which are written in C, and you use those library, and just unlike SQL Server, which is a piece of software which is running in the background and requesting all your requests like processing your query. So this is not a piece of software. So this is just some library which you have included in your project, and you are using this for DB purpose. So and this is like ACID complaint. So all you know what about ACID. Now basically web SQL. So web SQL database API isn't actually part of this HTML5 specification, but it's a separate specification, and this was introduced as a set of API. So it's what it's doing, your web SQL, your SQLite is basically implemented in C, and now what actually web SQL is doing, using some sort of JavaScript or jQuery library, it's kind of manipulating those C library function, and which is allowing you to interact with the SQLite in fact. So web SQL is nothing but kind of libraries which allows you to interact with the SQLite libraries. Okay. So there are some core methods which are used in web SQL. So basically there are 3 methods which you use in web SQL. So there is your open database. So you're gonna use this method to create a database or connect to an existing DB. And then you have transaction. So you do everything inside a transaction. And then you have execute SQL. So execute SQL is like whenever you need to execute some sort of query, then you're gonna use this function execute SQL. And if you look at the structure of this execute SQL. So it's more of like you're gonna create a transaction over DB, and then on that transaction object, okay, it's so there was like open database. So you're gonna, in a little while I will be showing you how you're gonna open your DB. So open DB function has some of more structure like something like this. So it's gonna take 5 parameter. So it's gonna take your DB name and version of DB. So whenever you need to make any changes in the DB, you need to change the version, like you were doing in index DB, and then whenever there is a version change, so it's gonna call a function. So you can just on that callback, you can just create or modify whatever it's gonna do. Now this part test DB, this is nothing but this is just a description, and then you're gonna provide the size. So here I'm using around 2 KB of size is allocated to this DB. So you can see this is my first parameter is my DB name, then version, description and size, and then you have a creation callback. So last 2 parameters they will be only used when the DB is being created for the first time. So I mean this open database function is used for both purposes. If you have to create database or you need to open some database. When you are creating for the first time, then last 2 parameters, that is size of the database and the creation callback will be fired. Otherwise, you just gonna have the DB object. Now you have transaction and execute SQL. Now, transaction, everything that you do inside this SQLite has to be done inside this transaction object. And inside transaction, you're gonna use this your execute SQL. So I have my DB object in here, which I just created, where DB. And inside this DB, I'm using my transaction. And as a callback, I'm passing this transaction object in here, and using this transaction object, I'm just executing some sort of query. So this is the function in here, execute SQL, and there are some queries. So if everyone succeeds, then the transaction will succeed. Otherwise, it will roll back. Yeah, I'm just coming to that part. You'll be seeing in demo. And then you have synchronization. Now you have your offline application, you have offline DB, and now when the server actually comes, so you wanna do some sort of synchronization with your local and your local copy of database with the server copy, or maybe vice versa. So actually there is no predefined API for synchronization in HTML5. So you need to write some sort of your JavaScript query, or you need to use some kind of services to implement this functionality. And this is navigator.online. So this is the property of a browser which you can use to see if your browser is online or not. So whenever you have internet connectivity, so this is gonna return true, otherwise it's gonna return false, and you can just periodically check this thing. So if your browser is online, you can do some stuff with the server, otherwise you are happy with the local end. And you generally use services and pass data as JSON or XML. Okay, so this is all about it, and just we're gonna see implementation of this.
What was the last parameter creation call? What is the signification of that parameter?
Okay, just coming to this. I mean, I will just show you how you can do this. Okay. So actually that's a callback. That's not a parameter. That's a callback which will be called whenever you are creating your the first time. I mean the open database function. is used to connect to database, and at the same time it is also used to create the database. So if you already have a database, then that callback will not fire. If you don't have the database, then that callback will fire.
What will happen after?
And inside that callback you can do, I mean, you are trying to get a DB object. If you don't have DB object, you would like to create that DB object. So that callback will create the DB object and will return the DB object to you.
What happens if you have a particular data already exists in our database?
It will just return the that object of that DB.
And what will happen if you are trying to use multiple sites which are using a single line?
Actually, sir, this is the server side, client side implementation. So every client will be having its own copy of DB.
So that is what I am saying. That suppose I have 10 different sites within the same browser and we are using the single line. Will there be some sort of memory, some kind of?
The space which is allocated to a particular site, so it's allocated to a particular site. So if you have 10 different sites, so they all will be having their own database, so it won't conflict with each other. Okay, so we have a page in here, so just a simple page. So we're gonna do everything that we did with IndexedDB, but the difference will be that this time we will be using web SQL instead of IndexedDB. So if you just open up the console in here, and if you see web SQL, so I already have a DB with DB employee, and inside this DB employee I have a table, and if you see, this is pretty relational kind of thing. So you have here in tabular form, it's not like what you are having in IndexedDB. So here in IndexedDB you are having an object form. So there was a key, and for that particular key there was value. But in web SQL you have table-like structure, so it's divided into column and rows. So let's see how we are achieving this functionality. Okay, so let's just start with the code. So is it visible? I believe it won't be visible. Mouse का कोई shortcut है इसका? Bottom. It is. That's not working. Okay, so it should be visible. Okay, so this part is there is nothing for but just toaster. So showing notification. Let's just start with here. So if you see this query here, so this is more of like a SQL query. So create table if not exist. So nothing to explain in here. Just the structure of my table. So I have some column in here, starting with ID, making it primary key, then employee ID, employee name, designation, salary. And the reason why I'm not making my employee ID as primary key is because um, in your server, maybe you have employee ID and it could lead to different thing. So that's why I have just another ID, and this is at my local end will be serving me the purpose of primary key, so that the conflict doesn't occur. You might be getting my answer. That's what you asked in last question. Okay, now starting with I have two variable in here. So DB, so it will be holding my DB object, so which I will be using in entire file, and then I have employee data. So in this employee data, I will be holding the data of each and every employee that I have in DB, and then I will be passing this array to the server for synchronization purposes. Now this part in here, before doing any operation, I would like to see if my browser actually support or not support this web SQL. So starting with my storage object, and then I'm gonna check my OpenDB property of my browser. So if it's there, then I'm just gonna set my storage to that thing, and otherwise I'm just gonna show user that your browser is not supporting this stuff. So for the time being, it's only supported in Chrome, Safari, and Opera. Now, prepare database. So this is actually where I will be creating and opening my database. So I will start with this function. So before creating my DB, I would like to see if actually my browser is supporting or not. So I will be calling my function this check for SQL storage. And if I don't have that stuff, so I will just return from here. Otherwise, I will be trying to open up a DB in here. So right now, I'm trying to open a DB employee, and this is my version. So this is my version 1, and this is just for the information part, nothing here. Apart from this, I am allocating it a size of this stuff, so 10 KB. I'm not using any callback in here. And if I have my DB object in here, again starting with the transaction, passing in the transaction object, and creating table. So using this transaction object, I'm just trying to execute my SQL. And if you see the way SQL is being executed, so this is basically divided into four parts. So it's gonna take your 4 parameters. So my create SQL, so which is declared here. So it's just gonna create a table if it doesn't exist. Then there is a empty array. So actually you can use parameterized queries. So I will be just showing you in a while in deleting or maybe updating how you can pass parameters. So if you want to use parameterized query, so you can pass parameters in here. The third parameter is your success callback. If in case your this SQL executes successfully, then this function will get executed. Otherwise, if in case there is some error, so this error part will get executed. So actually it's based on callback. So this is the basic way how you're gonna execute a SQL. So you have to pass in 4 parameters. So starting with a query which you're gonna use. Maybe you wanna do insertion, updation, deletion, whatever you wanna do, you have to pass the query. then you need to pass the parameter if you are using parameter as query. Otherwise, you can just specify the parameter in here also. This is your success callback, which will execute once everything gets okay with this query. And if some error occur, then this error callback will execute. Now for insertion purposes, I will starting from here. So again the DB object, which is my global variable. So if my browser is not supporting this web SQL kind of storage, then I won't be doing any stuff. Otherwise, just grabbing the element and the values. So this is not, you pretty much know every these things. So I'm just getting the name, designation, ID, salary.
What is FRM web SQL? Is it form?
Actually, yes. Actually, it's my ID for this form.
ID for the form?
Yeah, I'm just getting element by this ID. So if you just go down here, so this is my ID. So just getting this stuff, getting all the values, and if I do have the values, then this part is here. So again using transaction on this DB. This time this is my transaction object T, and again if you see this query in here, so it's more of like insert into this thing, table, my table, and then these are the columns, and then these are the values. So just values are like I'm using parameter as query in here. So just question mark, and it's more of like it's gonna match these values with those in the array. So it's gonna replace first question mark with the first value which is in array. So employee ID, then employee name, designation, and salary. These will be replacing the question mark in here. And then again the success callback. How many rows are affected? It's just gonna return me the rows. So this is my transaction object, and this is gonna return the rows which are affected. And again this is my error callback. So this is the general way how you're gonna execute your SQL. So you have 4 statements. So starting with query, then if you have any parameters, then your success callback, and then your error callback. So once I have this thing, I can just okay, let's just see till now how it's working. So just a reset form, so getting all the elements and just setting value to null. Everything can be done at the client end. You know, this is one of the techniques. No, it's not duplicacy. See, what are the topics? So you are creating an offline application. You wanna do everything that a person can do while he's on online. Now you are on offline mode. Okay, you wanna do some sort of insertion and updation and deletion operation, all crude operation that you can do on online. Now when you are offline, so this is the offline substitute, how you can do in offline mode. Yes, you need to actually create the same structure. So which is on the server, you need to create exact copy of that on your client end, and then you just can do all the operation which you can do on the online mode as offline mode. Okay, so getting all this stuff in here. So it's a asynchronous call, so that's why it isn't getting there. Actually, I need to put my debugger here. So once my ingestion so I'm able to insert the, so it's gonna return me the SQL result. So this is the inserted ID and one row was inserted in there. Also, if you see in the resources, so this is being maintained this way. So for a guy who has worked on relational DB, so it's easy for him to migrate to web SQL kind of storage instead of index DB. So fetch is more of like same. Here again also so in case of fetch, you will be getting the employee ID on the basis of which you will be getting the data, and then again you have query here, and this time I want to be using parameter as query. Instead I am just specified the employee ID in the query itself. So again the same method of calling. So this is my query and I'm not using any parameter as query here. So if this succeeds, then just gonna populate the form with the object which was returned to me with and same stuff. So in this way we can implement all these functionality. So if you wanna delete, just same web SQL sort of query, delete from table where you have some employee ID, and same stuff for update. So this much is pretty same. Okay, so this was all about CRUD operation which you can perform. And now once we are done with the CRUD operation, let's just see the synchronization part. So I'm actually not gonna do the whole stuff like closing my connection because there are some guys in there on GTM. So actually I will be just trying to do all this stuff, the synchronization stuff on button click, and you can do this by catching the event also. Navigator dot is online or offline.
Does this SQLite has inbuilt function?
Inbuilt function. No sir, actually SQLite is not your. It just you know, if you go to SQLite, it's basically a library of written in C. So you need to implement all these. it does all the job which a relational DB does. I mean, you can just use this as a standalone application, and you can just use this library in your project, and then do all the stuff that you are doing with a relational DB.
How will it synchronize with server?
I'm just showing you this part. I'm just showing you the demo. Okay, so for the synchronization part, okay, so I have written a web service in here. On this data operation, I will be just passing my employee data as a JSON string. Okay. Is it okay? Okay. Okay, so just a simple SOAP service in here. So I'm just passing my employee data as a JSON string, and then I have a class down in here, employee class, and then just deserializing the data. And then once I have the object, you can do the insertion operation. So this is pretty much easy to do the insertion operation. Okay, now let's just do this part, how we gonna actually do this. Okay, so on this, I'm actually doing this stuff on my button click. You can just also do this by catching the event, which is window.is online or offline. So first I'm just gonna retrieve from my local DB. So for retrieving, same the SQL query in there, select all from T employee. You get the data, this is a query. Once you get the data, you're just gonna create JSON from that data. Okay, so this again creating transaction on the DB, then just passing in the query. On success, if this thing succeed, then creating the JSON string from that data. Okay, so so before starting, I'm just emptying my, if I have some previous data, so just empty the array employee data, and then just get the data, and then just push into that array. So I have an array of employee data containing all stuff. So I'm just showing you all this stuff. And once I have this employee data, so I'm just in my do synchronization, if I have my employee data, then just creating a JSON string from that data, and then just calling my web service in here. So this is my web service synchronization, and I'm passing the JSON data, and this is my success callback. So if I am able to successfully pass the employee data, then this function will execute. Okay.
How do we distribute the data that has been already synchronized and that needs to
Actually, here you need to implement some your business logic. I mean, what you can do when you are going online.
So where exactly? In the web service or in the JavaScript?
This is your business logic. How you gonna implement this stuff? What you can actually do whenever you are getting online. you can just do a synchronization. If data is synchronized, you can just truncate all the data from your local DB and then get the fresh copy. And if there is some updation, what you can actually do, actually Jogender is working on this, and what exactly they are doing, when the first time they are connecting to the server, they are getting the data. If there is any modification, what they are actually doing, they have created a different table or data structure. So whenever there is some modification, they are just getting the data from their original DB and just putting that stuff in that different DB. So whenever they are again connecting to the server, so if they have some data in the DB, so which is your modified DB, they are just synchronizing that with the server. And once your synchronization is over, they are just again deleting their modified data. So they have a fresh copy of data which is there on the server and their client end. If there any modification is there, they are taking some data from that database into some different data, and they are synchronizing this data with the server. And once synchronization over, they are again truncating this stuff. So whenever you have some stuff in here, you know that you have to do synchronization, and you are synchronizing this stuff. So this is somewhat there is business logic.
I was just trying to get whether do we have any existing.
No, there is no existing. So there is no support for synchronization. That's what I already said. So you need to create your business logic in here. You can create your database in that. Right. Okay. Okay, so I'm just first I'm gonna try and retrieve from my DB. So actually it's a async process. So actually it just passes down here. So for the timing, my array is empty, and my result contains some sort of data in here. So it's a SQL result. So having 3 records are there. Okay, so just try and create my array. So now in my employee data, I have the data in here. And now once I get the data, so I have my JSON string in here. I'm just passing it to the server. Okay, so I have my this data in here, and after deserialization I have this my okay. And once I have this stuff, so insertion part is quite easy, so you can do this stuff. And again for synchronization purpose, I can just again send my employee data as a JSON string. So you can get the data from the database from the server. So for the timing, I'm just returning the same string. Okay, so this is how you can just send the data to the server and get the data from the server. So this is all about the synchronization part.
How long SQLite can reside data?
How long SQLite can reside data? So as long as you are not going to delete your local DB copy, it will
So
retain
if
the
I will
data.
close my browser and shut down my machine and reopen it,
No,
will
no,
have the same.
it will have the data.
Okay.
Okay. Only the session storage will remove the data once you close your browser. Otherwise, the all three other technique like local DB and index DB and session storage, they're gonna hold the data as long as you don't delete the data from your local end. So this was it. If you have any questions. Thank you.
Every time when we are inserting or deleting data, we are using transaction object.
Uh-huh.
Is it possible to update multiple records at a time using transaction object?
Using transaction object, yes, it is possible.
Okay, let's say I'm updating 5 or 10 records at a time using transaction object, and simultaneously in another tab, I am trying to select those records. So is it possible?
At one tab, you are trying to insert.
I mean to say, like in SQL Server, we have option of no log. And whenever you will have it, you are using the transaction object, and then on those particular data we will have log. So if we are not using no log, SQL Server, then we will not have that particular data.
Okay.
So is it possible here?
Using lock, I have to check this if SQLite support lock or not. If SQLite support lock, then you have the lock functionality here also. Actually, see, Web SQL is using all the wrapper classes of SQLite. So if your SQLite support lock mechanism, then you must be getting a lock in here. Okay. So that was it.